117 people, men, women, children, even a newborn baby, vanished from the face of the earth. No bodies, no graves, no signs of struggle, nothing. Just one word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. And here's what makes this story absolutely insane. When the governor of that colony finally returned to find his people, he wasn't gone for a few days. He wasn't gone for a few months. He was gone for 3 years. And in that time, every single soul he'd left behind had simply disappeared. This isn't some old legend. This isn't folklore. This is documented history, America's oldest unsolved mystery. And after 400 years, we might finally know what actually happened. But I have to warn you, the truth is way more disturbing than the theories you've heard before.
All right, let's set the stage here. Because you can't understand what happened to these people unless you understand why they were there in the first place. It's 1587. England is locked in a brutal rivalry with Spain. The Spanish have been raiding the New World for decades: gold, silver, land, and England is watching all of it slip away. Queen Elizabeth I is desperate to plant the English flag somewhere, anywhere in the Americas before it's too late. So she backs a guy named Sir Walter Raleigh. You've probably heard that name before. Raleigh organizes an expedition to establish the first permanent English settlement in North America. Not Jamestown, that comes later. This is the original attempt. And the location? A small island off the coast of what's now North Carolina, Roanoke Island. Now, here's the thing. This wasn't England's first shot at Roanoke. There had been earlier expeditions, military men, explorers, and those earlier attempts, they did not go well. Tensions with local tribes, food shortages, violence. But the 1587 group was supposed to be different. These weren't soldiers. These were families, regular people looking to start fresh in a new world. Farmers, craftsmen, pregnant women. 117 colonists sailed across the Atlantic with everything they owned, dreaming of building new lives on foreign soil. They had no idea they were sailing straight into a nightmare. And what happens next is where things get truly unbelievable. The colonists arrived at Roanoke Island in late July 1587, led by a man named John White. White wasn't a soldier or a politician. He was an artist, a painter. He'd actually been to Roanoke before on an earlier expedition, making detailed drawings of the land, the wildlife, and the Native American tribes. This time, he came back as governor. And almost immediately, things started going wrong. See, the original plan wasn't even to settle on Roanoke Island. They were supposed to continue north to the Chesapeake Bay. Better land, better resources, less history of conflict with local tribes. But the ship's captain refused to take them any further. He wanted to get back to England before hurricane season. So he dumped them at Roanoke and basically said, "Good luck." Now, the colonists found themselves on an island they weren't prepared for, with limited supplies, surrounded by tribes who had very recent memories of English violence. Just days after arriving, one of the colonists, a man named George Hoe, wandered off alone to catch crabs in the shallow water. He never came back. His body was found the next day, shot through with 16 arrows. The colonists were terrified, and honestly, they had every reason to be. But then something remarkable happened. On August 18, 1587, a baby was born, a little girl. Her name was Virginia Dare, and she became the first English child born in the Americas. Think about that for a second. In the middle of all this fear and chaos, new life. Think about that for a second. In the middle of all this fear and chaos, new life. Virginia Dare would become one of the most mythologized figures in American history. Songs have been written about her, statues built, her name attached to everything from counties to vineyards. But here's the truth nobody talks about. We have no idea what happened to her. None. She was 9 days old when her grandfather, John White, made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Hey, real quick, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or state in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel, whether you're tuning in from North Carolina, Virginia, Texas, or somewhere across the world. Let me know. Okay, back to John White. The colony was running out of supplies, fast. They needed reinforcements. They needed food, tools, weapons. So the colonists begged White to sail back to England and bring help. White didn't want to go. He'd just become a grandfather. His daughter, his granddaughter, his entire family was on that island, but the colony's survival depended on it. So on August 27, 1587, just 9 days after Virginia Dare was born, John White boarded a ship and sailed east. He had no way of knowing he wouldn't see his family again for 3 years. And when he finally made it back, there would be nothing left to find.
Here's where the story takes its darkest turn. John White fully intended to return to Roanoke within months, but history had other plans. Almost as soon as he reached England, the entire country went into crisis mode. Spain was preparing to invade. The Spanish Armada, one of the largest naval fleets ever assembled, was getting ready to crush England once and for all. Queen Elizabeth ordered every available ship into military service. Nobody was sailing to some tiny colony in North Carolina, not now. White was stuck, trapped in England, while his daughter, his granddaughter, and over 100 colonists waited across the ocean, wondering if help would ever come. It took 3 years for White to finally secure a ship back to Roanoke. 3 years of begging, pleading, watching seasons pass. By the time he set sail in 1950, the colonists had been alone for nearly 1,000 days. And when he finally arrived at Roanoke Island on August 18, 1590, his granddaughter Virginia's 3rd birthday, what he found made his blood run cold. The settlement was gone. Not destroyed, not burned, just empty. The houses had been dismantled, the fortifications taken apart almost methodically. Personal belongings were scattered around, rusted armor, rotting books, but no bodies, no graves, no bones, no sign of a fight. The only clues were 2 carvings. On a tree near the entrance to the settlement, someone had carved the letters C-R-O, and on a wooden post at the main gate, a single word was carved in capital letters: Croatoan. White actually felt a flicker of hope when he saw that word. Before he'd left, he and the colonists had made an agreement. If they ever needed to relocate, they'd carve the name of their destination, and if they were in danger, they'd carve a Maltese cross above it. There was no cross. Explaining, Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now called Hatteras Island, and it was also the name of a friendly Native American tribe that lived there. White believed his people had simply moved. They were safe. They were alive. But then there was a cruel twist. Nature intervened. When he tried to sail to Croatoan to find them, a massive storm rolled in. His ship was nearly destroyed. The captain refused to continue. John White never set foot on American soil again. He spent the rest of his life in Ireland, writing letters filled with grief and guilt, haunted by the question he could never answer: what happened to my family? In fact, this story was so powerful that millions of people recently searched for answers about Roanoke, and today we're going deeper than anyone has gone before. Because here's the thing, for 4 centuries, historians have been arguing about what really happened, and the theories, they range from tragic to terrifying. Before I go further, I want to know what you think. What do you believe happened to the Lost Colony? Massacre? Starvation? Something else entirely? Drop your answer below. Seriously, I read every single comment. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share in the next part, is something that almost never gets talked about.
Let's run through the major theories, and then I'll show you the evidence that's actually changing everything. Theory 1. Massacre. This is the most brutal possibility. Some historians have argued that the colonists were attacked and killed by hostile Native American tribes, possibly the Powhatan Confederacy to the north, or local tribes still angry over earlier English violence. But here's the problem with that theory. There's no evidence of a battle, no mass grave, no burned structures, no defensive wounds on scattered remains. The colonists didn't die fighting. If they were killed, it happened somewhere else, or in a way that left no trace. Theory 2. Starvation and desperation. Roanoke Island wasn't exactly rich in resources. The colonists arrived too late in the season to plant crops. Hunting and fishing could only go so far. Some believe the settlers simply starved to death over the 3 years they waited for help, or scattered in small groups trying to survive, eventually dying in the wilderness. But this theory is plausible, but again, where are the bodies? Where are the graves? Starving people don't just vanish into thin air. Theory 3. Hope. This is the one you believe. What if the colonists didn't die at all? What if they simply left Roanoke Island and joined local Native American tribes? The word Croatoan might not have been a cry for help, it might have been a forwarding address. The Croatoan people, also called the Hatteras tribe, were known to be friendly to the English. If the colonists were starving, desperate, and abandoned, merging with a local tribe that could feed them, shelter them, and teach them how to survive, that might have been the smartest decision they ever made. And here's where the story gets wild. There's actually evidence to support this. Historical accounts, voices from the past. In the decades and centuries after Roanoke, English explorers and settlers moving into the region reported encountering Native Americans with distinctly European features. Gray eyes, light hair, some who claimed English ancestry, some who even spoke broken English phrases. The Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, one of the largest Native American tribes on the East Coast, has long claimed descent from both native peoples and the lost colonists. And while DNA evidence hasn't definitively proven the connection, it hasn't ruled it out either. Then there's the archaeological breakthrough, excitement building. In 2012, researchers re-examined an old map drawn by John White himself. Using advanced imaging technology, they found a hidden patch on the map, a symbol that seemed to mark an inland location, roughly 50 miles west of Roanoke Island. Excavations at that site have uncovered fragments of English pottery, European-style tools, and other artifacts dating to the late 1500s. Some of the colonists may have moved inland, seeking better land, better allies, a better chance at survival. Theory 4. The Dark Horse. Mention it, but move on. There's one theory that often gets overlooked. Spain was furious about English colonization efforts. They viewed the entire Atlantic coast as their territory. Spanish ships regularly patrolled these waters. Some historians believe Spanish forces may have discovered the colony and either killed the settlers or captured them as prisoners. Spanish colonial records from this era are incomplete, and some documents hint at English captives taken from the Carolina coast. Acceptance of uncertainty. We may never know for sure, but here's what I believe, and I'm saying this as someone who spent way too many hours digging into this. The colonists probably didn't suffer a single fate. Some may have died of disease or starvation, some may have been killed, and some, maybe many, may have walked away from Roanoke Island, joined native communities, and survived. Their descendants might be walking among us today. That's not a ghost story. That's not a legend. That might be history, just not the kind that gets written down in textbooks.
So where does all of this leave us? Let me give you the real takeaways from this story, because there's more here than just a mystery. First, survival is messy. We like our history neat, heroes and villains, clear endings, but real life isn't like that. The Roanoke colonists didn't get a dramatic final battle or a triumphant rescue. They faced impossible choices in an impossible situation, and they did whatever it took to survive. That might have meant abandoning their English identities entirely. And honestly, that took courage. Second, the disappearance might be a myth. The colonists didn't vanish into thin air. They weren't abducted by aliens or swallowed by the earth. They were human beings who made human decisions when help never came. The mystery isn't really about what happened to them. It's about our inability for 400 years to accept that the answer might be uncomfortable. Third, history is still being written. The archaeological discoveries happening right now, the hidden maps, the inland sites, the artifacts, are rewriting everything we thought we knew. This isn't a cold case, it's an active investigation. And within our lifetime, we might finally have definitive proof of where the colonists went. What this tells us is that the past isn't as distant as we think. The Roanoke story isn't just about 1587, it's about resilience, it's about adaptation, it's about what ordinary people do when the world abandons them. And that's a story worth telling. All right, we covered a lot today. If this story gave you something, even just one new way of seeing the world, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who deserve to hear stories like this. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Roanoke colonists survived by joining Native American tribes? Or do you think something darker happened on that island? Drop your answer in the comments below. I personally read every single one, and I can't wait to see what you think. And if you're new here, welcome. Hit that red subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss what we drop next. We cover the stories history books left out, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. This is Legends Historian, where forgotten stories find their voice. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and never stop asking why.